Hello and welcome to the Listening Posts unboxing channel on YouTube. Today I'm unboxing an entry-level but price-fighting subwoofer from PSB, the PSB Alpha S8 subwoofer. This really compact but really hard-working little subwoofer has always impressed me. It's 150 watts a channel and it's got an 8-inch driver. So it's not designed to go with the biggest home theatre to produce the most prestigious bass. But if you've got a compact stereo system, or you're playing around with a 2.1 stereo package, or maybe you've got a soundbar with a subwoofer output and you just want a little bit more bass weight, then this is absolutely perfect. And it's astonishing for its price. It's got amplification straight out of NAD's manufacturing plants, and we know how good their amplifiers sound, and brilliant technology in the main bass driver. So it's superb. Nevertheless, let's have a look. The packaging, pretty modest. In fact, most of the PSB packaging is really modest. We've got the PSB brand, designed and engineered in Canada. Again, emulation, although this side we've got scannable information for its serial number along with comprehensive scannable information about its model. Pretty boring on the sides and ends. Opening it's really straightforward because it is sealed with traditional packing tape. Like most things that come to New Zealand, this has actually been opened by the distributor and the international power cords removed and then one suitable for the New Zealand market put in. This is obviously exactly as you will see it in your home if you're in New Zealand. Now, although it's not very big as you can see, we're going to treat this like it's a traditional heavy product and roll the box over and lift the lightweight box off the product, rather than trying to take the product out of the box. Now on the bottom we've got a couple of those preserving sort of things there that keep it dry and mold free in transit, and we've got the New Zealand figure 8 power cord strapped to one of the pieces of polystyrene. The power cord itself, so the products, to avoid any earth hum, have just a 2-pin power cord, figure 8. There's, in a plastic bag, some basic information and warranty. There's all sorts of things about how to contact international distribution centres and you name it. But realistically, you're not going to have a problem with this, and if you do, you give us a call. But nevertheless, there's a bit of information and warranty card and basic setup. It's got a polished cloth bag over the subwoofer, and if I just kind of roll this over, it's probably the next easiest step onto its feet. Then there's one of those desiccant bags, and get rid of the pieces of polystyrene that remain. At this point, oh, there we go. So we've got the magnetic grill separately attached to the front of the unit. Just put that off to one side. Polished cloth bag comes off, and we see that the edge is protected with a second layer of that little poly paper. It's just that front edge. Now the grill is metal, and with that there are magnets across the front for it to attach. The metal style of grill is utilised right across the Alpha range. So they do little bookshelf speakers, the AM3s, AM5s, sorry, that's the active monitors, again with a steel grill. They do a P3 and a P5. Award-winning budget speakers, and then they do a floor standing speaker as well, all of which have a metal grill. Now that's ideal if you've got pets. Let's be honest, kittens and cats are going to want to claw all sorts of things, and there's a huge advantage with the steel grill of being able to avoid any of the issues associated with those fabric grills getting damaged. Nevertheless, the steel grill has an advantage because magnetically in place, along with the foam insulation that it has on it, it means it cannot chatter or rattle, and if the grill is off, it leaves no hints of that as far as those classic sort of pegs that can often snap associated with the grill itself. So that's pretty awesome. It's acoustically transparent and probably designed specifically with a subwoofer in mind. PSB logo front and centre. Looking at the drive unit, you'll see that it's a woven drive unit. It's a pressed and woven texture with a huge annulus. It's got great excursion for its size, and again, this is not designed for some auditorium as far as its performance, but when it's placed properly and when it's set up properly as far as both your expectations and the control part of it, the performance is astonishing. I can't get over how good this sounds as far as adding that weight and timing being the most important. None of this monotonous, blurry bass that just sort of drowns out the music, but something that keeps pace with that is really, really important. So it's wonderful to see in such a compact box that they've delivered exactly that. Of course it's because they've put a decent drive unit with a decent voice coil and a decent magnet. They haven't scrimped on the basics. Now the unit itself has 4 feet to help isolate the product and give it a little bit of support. Nevertheless, it's at its back. Oh, by the way, you can see that they've masked the physics required from the box and other things associated with managing the air as producing something a little bit deeper but not very wide. It means that once placed, it's not going to look as visually unappealing as some of the more traditional square box subwoofers. That's excellent to see. Looking at the back, we see just how flexible the product is. Firstly, a large and expansive rear port. This is kind of flared to try and accommodate and avoid any of the traditional port chuffing that can occur when air passes through the port rather than being used to vary and control the pressure within the cabinet. We see above that a traditional rocker switch for on and off and the figure 8 power socket. Bit of compliance associated with electrical safety standards and all those types of things, and then the scannable information for its serial number. The back plate acts as the heatsink to the amplification, so you'll see a few additional screws associated with some of the amplification being strapped to it. We've got the model number of Alpha S8, and then of course the manufacturing brand of PSB. Above that we've got a couple of switches and a couple of basic dials. The first switch relates to whether or not the subwoofer is always on or in an auto standby situation. So auto is signal sensing. From every now and again you run the risk of the subwoofer perhaps turning off during quiet patches and then a split second after the sound is required sort of bursting to life. So if you have that problem, just simply set it to on and it won't go to standby, and of course it won't burst into life. If it's set up correctly though, auto is probably the best from a power saving perspective. Then you've got a simple switch for phase, in and out of phase, or 0 and 180 degrees. That helps with placement in a room, but it also helps with being able to set it up to ensure that it does keep nice timing with the speakers that you've chosen as well. Next we've got a basic volume pot design for the crossover network. Now it will always try to do its lowest frequency. What you're doing here is setting the maximum frequency before it starts to roll off. It'll do 35 to 150 Hertz typically, so that's pretty good, particularly from a compact subwoofer. So if you've got a reasonable pair of bookshelf speakers or a compact pair of floor standing speakers, then you may end up with this running quite low on its frequency crossover. It's wonderful to see the accuracy of these products and a reasonable build given the cost and modest price for this product. And then we've got a traditional volume control. This is basically how loud you want this to go. Again, it has all of the capabilities to be able to produce a little bit more thump and slam, but like most subwoofers, don't set it up too loud. The most feedback we get about subwoofers is that they become a bit drony. Well, of course, people want their new asset to be impactful in the space without realizing that perhaps by setting the volume too high they've created all of that impact and makes them feel good about their purchase, but in the end they've made it a little bit drony and perhaps a little bit dominant. So don't be afraid to set the volume a little bit lower than you might think. The idea being that the subwoofer you shouldn't really notice until you turn it off, and then you notice how much of an impact it's having. Beside that, we've got a 5-volt USB. Now that's for some of the aftermarket accessories allowing for a wireless receiver. Obviously a transmitter and receiver package, they're relatively modest in price and typically a 5 volts because people are adopting the USB output to be able to power those things. Nevertheless, we've got our final input over here, which is right and left, very clearly labelled, and the ability to plug it in singularly for an LFE if required. So, there we have it. PSB's Alpha S8 subwoofer. 8-inch, 150 watts, goes all the way down to 35 Hz. Proudly unboxed here at the Listening Post in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe to our channel.